Hello, welcome to this playthrough of Elden Ring, where I will be in the co-pilot seat and Branwell will be driving. This is a lore playthrough, and in every video there will be spoilers, because this is intended as a vehicle for Branwyn to explain her theories on the lore of the setting. So if you'd rather develop your own theories without being influenced by other people's, or don't want to be surprised on some of the deep lore of the game, this is not a straight playthrough of just playing gameplay focused. This is a lore focused playthrough. So you might want to give this a pass if you want to avoid big spoilers. With that said, I hope you enjoy the video. And there we are.
Welcome back, everyone, to Elden Ring. I am here with Thrith. We are doing a lore playthrough of Elden Ring.
Which means instead of getting to hear me ramble endlessly about whatever is going on when I'm playing a game, we're listening to Branwyn pontificate on Elden lore.
Yeah. Alright, so ripping off the band-aid is where we got to.
Yep.
Radagon is Marika. Marika is the Storm King. The Golden Lineage's symbol is the Storm King symbol because Radagon, it's not... This part isn't controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Radagon and Marika are the same person, so they can switch genders.
Right.
So Godfrey defeats Radagon / Marika and takes them as a bride, and that's how they start the Golden Lineage. Now, if we are linking this back to old Dark Souls lore.
Right.
So, Gwendolyn, called the Dark Sun, was the chief, super powerful with illusion magic and affiliated with moon magic, massive talent for moon magic. Born as a boy, so their culture was okay, the moon is the feminine element, you have to be raised as a girl, and here's a ring that changes your gender. And if you see Gwendolyn's character model, they are quite androgynous, but it's obvious that their body is femme-shaped. They have breasts, they have hips. Their legs are also snakes. We'll get to that. But Gwendolyn was enamored with his father, Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight.
Right.
Which is why he's known as the Dark Sun. But because of the way he was raised and everything, number one, he was not in line for the throne.
Right.
Number two, he was the one who did all the dirty work in the family.
Dirty. Yep, okay.
Yeah. Whereas the Storm King was the golden boy of, was the chosen heir, the prince, etc. Their sister was Guinevere. We only see Guinevere as an illusion created by Gwendolyn,
right,
in order to fool undead seekers to link the flame and sacrifice themselves to feed the first flame to continue the Age of Fire. Because that was, because Gwendolyn was all about helping the father because they admired them so much, and wanted to do what their father wanted, even if it was the bad thing to do.
Right. So that big lady that when you kill her and she vanishes, and the whatever the Londo becomes
Anor
all,
Londo,
and
yeah.
Orlando becomes all terrible, and oh no, it's bad. That was
Yeah.
just an illusion.
A massive illusion.
Even the woman, you didn't. There was not.
Even the woman. You do not actually kill her. That is just an illusion.
It's just like popping the balloon so that it goes.
Correct.
Okay.
And remember, Ornstein was
Yep.
one of the two knights that you have to fight to see the illusion of Gwendolyn.
Right.
So we have a link between. So not Gwendolyn, Guinevere.
Guinevere.
The
Right.
illusion of Guinevere. Yeah. So Ornstein, lions and eagles. Stormvale, lions and eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Guinevere was known as the Princess of Sunlight.
Okay.
Her powers were all about fertility and healing. But also sunlight in this in this mythos is also powers over time.
That's an interesting
Be-
association. Go on.
well, because light speed, as you approach light speed, you get,
The
time
dilation
slows
effect.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Dark Souls 3, you do a lot of time travel because the order of things is breaking down as the Age of Fire is artificially continued long before, long past when it should have ended and a new age should have started.
Right.
To the point that you get hunted by hounds of Tindalos from the
Wait.
Lovecraft mythos.
Literally, Hounds of Tyndalos.
They're not named, but they're massive hounds that try and kill you when you enter a new area from either the past or the future.
And do they come out of corners of rooms?
No, but they do come out of nowhere.
Got it. Okay.
They just sort of suddenly appear and start to chase you down.
Got it.
They also look like the big wolf thing from Berserk because Berserk references are all through.
Right.
It's
Right.
one of Miyazaki's favorite things. So the Princess of Sunlight. If what we're saying is that Radagon is the Storm King and Radagon is Marika, Guinevere had red hair the same as Radagon. Marika has blonde hair, but we also know because one of the items we pick up here in Stormvale is the Mimic's Veil.
Okay.
Let me just slap this one on here, and I'll show you what it does. Oh yes, that's right. We go there.
It change you into the nearest thing?
Not the nearest thing, into an object that fits into the space you're in.
Ah.
So you can hide.
Okay.
When Godric was hounded from Landel, the royal capital, this was one of the multitude of treasures he took with him, also known as Marika's Mischief.
Huh.
We now know that Marika is a trickster, also a trickster deity who can take on different forms. Guinevere in the Dark Souls games is very enigmatic. Mostly you just see the consequences of stuff that has happened to her. Um, there are like 5 different storylines that you discover that are like Guinevere was married off to this king.
Okay.
She had a bunch of babies by that king who are now like some of the enemies you're going to fight because stuff happened to them. And then she just got up and left one day. Where like catastrophe happens, she buggers off.
Okay.
And then she turns up somewhere else, having married some other king, having married, having more babies who are dying tragically because that's apparently what happens to the princes and princesses that she has with these kings.
That's a big rat.
Yeah. Those children are also very powerful. They're some of the worst enemies that you fight. So this particular room is interesting, or like chasm is interesting, because obviously this is a dumping ground for old statues.
Right.
And we've got a bunch of feminine statues that have been cast down and broken, and we have a bunch of statues of Radagon where the face has been destroyed.
Right. There's a lot of that here going on.
Yeah. One of the ancient practices, we also have a statue of Velka,
whose face isn't destroyed.
Whose face isn't destroyed, but they would have had to have climbed down here and do that. I feel like they just threw this stuff down here.
They just okay.
Yeah. We have Radagon with a book. We have Radagon with a great sword.
Yeah. Radagon with the great sword is what I've been seeing most in the statues when you point out Radagon.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's an example of the book version. That's an example of the sword version.
Right.
I feel like after Radagon / Marika lost against Godfrey, they tried to do a retcon. Like they tried to make out the practice of like beheading statues in ancient times was all about hiding who that person was while not entirely erasing the history. It's a method of disguise. Much like I feel Radagon disguising his red hair.
Right.
Because I think there were lots of things with the red hair. I think it might have been a curse. The red hair, there's a lot of creatures in the Lands Between whose hair or fur is slowly turning red because they're aggressive and they do a lot of like eating other things, eating creatures. Those creatures also tend to grow horns.
Oh. I'm also feeling tinges of Bloodborne in this.
Well, yeah, Bloodborne is also part of this whole thing. Now, this is a boss arena.
Yeah.
And this is going to be very important. The boss here is very important for stuff that we'll be talking about. But, so, yeah, Guinevere has red hair. I don't think Radagon wanted people to link him to Guinevere with the whole red hair business.
Right.
I think that was one of the reasons he hid it. If this whole thing is what I'm talking about. So yeah, here is an Ulcerated Tree Spirit.
Call it a smothering butterfly.
Smoldering
Smoldering
butterfly. It's on
butterfly.
fire.
Got it.
Well, we will be talking about the butterflies. Oh, crap. I'm going to... Yep, there it goes. I almost died. I did not need to double drink there. I don't have enough health for that.
Okay, there's the health bar. It's like, this is a boss. There should be a big health bar on the bottom.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's doing the mini boss thing of not having an actual health bar. Almost dead. These things are not immune to bleed, thankfully. Let's take an insurance sip and done.
Nice.
So, the ulcerated tree spirits come out of nowhere, but this chamber is interesting and important in its own way, apart from the ulcerated tree spirit. We will be fighting a lot of ulcerated tree spirits.
Oh, joy! This is one of those bosses that turns out to be just a mini boss. Then
It's to the point of parody. Like, there are so many Let's Plays where it's like, oh my god, another one of these things. Why another one of these things? They're actually very important to the lore, and they were trying to hammer home what they were all about. So, back in Dark Souls, I think I've talked a bit about putrescence.
we talked a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get dark essence of death and things like that leaks down into the earth, you get dregs. Like the sediment of that stuff settles and congeals into dark essence of rot and death, basically.
Okay.
There are also references to things called Formless Serpents.
Right.
In the game, and I think those things qualify.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Then you go back to Demon Souls, which is all about the problems with the Old One. So the Old One was basically a massive repository of souls that was a giant serpent, except it was covered in tree roots, with an aperture at the front.
Yeah.
That was a hole that you could just walk into.
Right.
You know, you walk into it, and it contained a bunch of souls and was the source of demons, of what was called demons in that world.
Right.
Demons being people who did a deal with the Old One to gain power, which what I am thinking was happening there was it was a massive repository of souls or runes. Either, let's use that word, those two words interchangeably for the moment.
Right.
And becoming a demon in that setting was getting a whole bunch of runes in order to power yourself up.
Okay.
In that era, those people were called demons. I think in Elden Ring's era, those people are called saints. It's the same process. You are becoming very powerful. It's just a matter of, in one timeline, at one point in time, they were vilified. In this point in time, the people who do that are canonized.
Okay, cool.
Now here we have bodies placed in large
Pods.
leaves or boats.
Are those seed pods?
Yeah. It's a death ritual. it's noted that in the past, the bodies of the dead were burnt in ghost flame,
Okay.
which is a cold flame like this.
Okay.
Um, I believe that this was done to prevent them from rising as undead. It destroyed the body to the point where, there wasn't the dregs, there wasn't the dark dregs, so, it got rid of the putrescence,
Mm-hmm.
and it prevented people from rising as undead, um, which is now a problem because of the death root in the lands between.
Right. Right.
And speaking of the death root, we have this face.
Yeah, I'm just now noticing that's a face.
Yeah, it's a face with
Tentacles coming out of it.
tentacles coming out of it, and it
Uh,
looks vaguely um, like this bit looks vaguely oyster-like or maybe fungus-like, and this bleeds when we hit it.
oh joy.
This is one of the corpse surrogates of Godwyn the Golden, the first of the demigods to die.
This is one of his grave sites.
Um, so there are a bunch of these faces that appear in the lands between, and the death root is an extension of his body because he was buried at the base of the Erd tree.
Uh huh.
And now which see his soul was killed, but his body wasn't. So his body started to mutate and merge with the roots of the great trees, which spread through the lands between, and wherever his body's influence touches is what causes things to it's what causes those that live in death to rise.
Okay.
In the lore, this is called a corpse surrogate.
Oh.
Which is from the DLC. The term, whether his body is copying itself in different places,
Right.
or or something else is going on. This is what happens when a living body doesn't have a soul. And we have a bloodstain here and an item. So the Prince of Death's pustule helps us against death blight. And if we touch this bloodstain, we can see how this person died. Oh no, Rogier, what did you do? So Rogier messed with the corpse surrogate and he got death blighted. That's the death blight animation.
Oh, so if you mess with this, will that happen to you?
Nope. We don't know what Rogier did for that to happen to him. But, he was dabbling in necromancy and attempted to do something, and it backfired. And if you remember, he's now in Round Table Hold with his legs covered in thorn vines.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, and there's this really long ladder. That leads us back up to Stormvale.
Okay.
So that's there. Godwyn the Golden is supposedly, what we know about Godwyn the Golden is that he is the child of Marika and
This guy just keeps pounding.
yeah, no, he really didn't like Godric. Godwin the Golden was the child of Marika and Godfrey here.
Okay.
So a member of the Golden lineage, one of the ancestors of Godric. It's weird because the two other... so Godwin was the golden child, like blonde hair, perfect body, very much the golden child. Befriended dragons.
Okay.
Like the dragon cult was part of his whole deal, which is why we get into some confusion between the Storm King and Godwin, because Godwin's arc is very similar to the Storm King's.
Okay.
He befriended the dragons. The dragons seem to have been tolerated in the Golden Order, though.
Okay.
But also the ancient dragons consider the dragons who sided with Godwin to be traitors against Placidusax.
Okay.
So there is a bunch of stuff going on here. And eventually Rani the Witch, there was a conspiracy, the Black Knife conspiracy happened. We know about that from the opening. We don't know yet that Rani was the one responsible. That's what Rogier's quest is all about. So Rani and Marika conspired to steal the Rune of Death, which was sealed away in the sword of Marika's champion, Malekith. Malekith was known as the Death of the Demigods. He was Marika's enforcer, basically. DT is known for his defeating the Gloam-Eyed Queen, who was probably an Empyrean who was competitive against Marika for godhood.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, that's what it seems like. That's probably more complicated than that. So Rani and Marika conspire. They steal parts of the Rune of Death and they create the Black Knives, who are also assassins who carry
Black Knives
called the Black Knives that are imbued with the Rune of Death so that they can kill demigods. Rani...
The Black Knives carry the Black Knives. They should do the rules writing for Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean... There's so much D&D stuff going on here.
No, I'm actually kind of picking on the attack action where you do attacks.
Oh, yes.
Which bugs me up the wall.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so Rani goes rogue. And we'll do a bit of Rani's quest line and everything, but she goes rogue. Because she doesn't want to be controlled by the Two Fingers, because that's what happens to Empyreans, who, are slated to succeed Marika and become a new god.
Right.
She destroys her Empyrean body and lives on in spirit. To do that, she finagles a ritual at the exact same time that Godwin is killed.
Right.
so that he dies in soul but not body, and she dies in body but not soul, which is why she's a spirit hanging out in a doll body.
Really weird application of sympathetic magic, but
Yes,
uh,
yes, very weird. And Rogier's like trying to work out what's going on with that because he's sympathetic to those who live in death. You know, they didn't ask for this.
mm-hmm.
This like life in death, which is pretty horrible.
Yep.
So he's trying to work out what's going on, and he sends us on a chase to do that. He's mates with D here,
Mm-hmm.
And next time we are going to learn about Fia here and her whole deal.
Right. Yep. Okay. And it's at just hitting 30 minutes now, so.
Yeah. So this is a good spot. But yeah, we've honestly, like, Radagon is Marika, is the Storm King, is Guinevere.
Is Gwendolyn.
No. Gwendolyn is different. We'll get into it. But
Okay.
basically, the commonality between Empyreans seems to be that they're... What I've seen is that there are three sort of intertwined lives. There's two personalities that share one body, and then a twin who is usually monstrous in comparison in some nature, but is one personality in one body.
Okay. Got it.
So you have these sort of three people that are intertwined, that are sharing the same soul, possibly, much like D here and his brother, and the depiction of his armor is a silver person entwined with a golden person.
Yep.
In the same way that, like, Radagon and Marika are similarly entwined, they seem to not exactly be the same person. But they do. We know that they share the same body. So my theory is that Guinevere and Gwendolyn in the old Dark Souls games were Empyreans.
Right.
For whatever reason, I think an Empyrean is born as a twin, and then one of the bodies has two personalities.
Okay.
Who can transform between the two.
Right. Okay.
So we have Marika / Radagon, or Gwendolyn / the Storm King, and Guinevere. That's the old set of Empyreans, possibly. I am making suppositions here. If anyone is listening and knows the what most people think, I am going off observations that I've made.
Okay. Yeah.
In Elden Ring, and I know we're over time and everything.
No
just
worries.
want to sum this up.
Yeah. No.
In this timeline, we have Mikola and Centrina as sharing the same body, and then we have Millennia,
Right.
the Blade of Mikola.
Right.
Who is the goddess, of rot and everything. Then we have Rani / Melina. And from the DLC, we have Mesma.
Who I have not heard of really, so that's going to be interesting.
Yep, we haven't gotten into Mesma yet, because that's a whole DLC thing that is not very much mentioned in the base game.
Okay.
So yeah, we will be getting into why I think that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, and I think Elden Ring is about mainly about which set of Empyreans, which Empyrean gets to become the god of
Mm.
the new age.
Got it. Okay.
Um, and I prefer Rani.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is also the ending that we're going to do, which is basically let's just flip the table,
Burn it
the,
all.
burn it all down.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we're at now. One of the things I might do with this character
Yeah.
is go and level up,
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't have to worry about losing battles so much while I'm talking.
Okay.
But I will do that off screen.
Yep. Thank you for doing this.
That's all right. I have a whole bunch of fun, and it lets me get all of this stuff in my head out of my head. And if you're out there and you think everything I've said is bullshit, pardon my French, but that's okay. That's what this game is about. is coming to your own understanding of the law.
Mm. Okay. Yep. Okay. Talk to y'all later.
See you all later.